say something about why it is, in certain instances where the body, in order to, the natural processes, in order to heal itself, actually will destroy itself. For example, if there's an infection, the body runs a temperature. It's not so much the disease that will kill, but the high temperature.
Yes.
And cancer is somewhat like that too. The body's use of the protein just gets carried away. Multiplication on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? If we are the creations of a divine love intelligence,
Yes.
why do those things, which are natural processes, why did they get out of line?
Of course, if we ask the question why, we will never get an answer, a helpful answer. There are many possible answers to the question why. See, when we ask a question why, we ask what is the cause of something. If you ask the question, why does an apple fall down from the tree? Or you can say, well, maybe it got too heavy for the stem to hold it, or maybe the wind was blowing, maybe some truck was passing by and shook the ground. If we ask why, there are many possible answers, none of them valid. But if we ask what is the meaning of an apple falling down from an apple tree or a pear tree,
Or the partridge, right?
no, the partridge, then we see that the meaning of an apple falling from a tree is that there is such a power called the gravitational power. And it reveals something very useful and important. So as to your question, if we rephrase your question, right? What is the meaning of fever? Is that your question?
Well, what is the meaning of the way the body reacts to that?
Yes.
So that it's not saving, but actually destructive.
Yes. Well, the general medical thinking on the issue of body responses is that the body is struggling to conquer the disease. But this struggle to conquer the disease destroys the man. This doesn't make any sense at all, right? For instance, the general theory of fever was that fever mobilizes the immunological forces and the leukocytes to conquer the infection. This is the standard way of thinking in medicine. But if we subject this phenomenon, you see, fever is a phenomenon, to metapsychiatric analysis, then we see that fever is simply fear. When a patient is terrified of his problem, be it anything, he will develop high fever. And the more fearful he is of his problem, the more feverish he will become. So it is just a somatic equivalent. We could say fever, the chills, and high temperature are somatic equivalents of fear, which can assume panicky proportion. And fear, of course, can kill. Therefore, instead of looking at fever as an ally in the doctor's struggle against the disease, it has to be seen as something undesirable and requiring the doctor to find a way of reassuring the patient that there is no danger, that it is possible to be healed. And if this kind of reassurance can be meaningfully provided, the fever abates. And then certain spiritual forces present in every individual can come up, which then can lead to healing. Yes?
Dr. I'd like to clarify something as far as illness in children. You said, I believe, that children are manifestations of their parents' consciousness.
Yes.
When a child becomes ill and has fever, is he manifesting what's going on in his parents?
Absolutely, of course. Aren't we all scared when a loved one is sick or has a problem? It's the human tendency to be fearful. And the more fearful we are, the worse things become.
So the child is reacting to the fear in the parents?
The parental fear manifests itself in the child's fear. It's not reacting to, because that would be cause and effect. And you are the best one in this class who has understood this until now.
Until now.
Would you say that cancer is fear too?
Well, the element, you see, that the element of fear must be seen as an expression of fear,
The element of what?
of fever.
Oh, fever.
Every cancer, every pneumonia, every cold, every arthritis, every migraine headache, every problem has a specific meaning to that particular individual. And it needs to be phenomenologically discerned. And when this, the meaning of a problem is correctly discerned, then we have a situation called recognition, right? Recognition needs to be clarified. As the recognition, the doctor's job is to attempt a hermeneutic clarification leading to sufficient regretfulness on the part of the patient. And then the next step is reformation.
So you made a generalization when you said that fever is fear.
Yeah.
And I was, without regard to a particular individual
Yes,
case there,
yeah.
and I wondered if there were some other physical
Yeah.
other physical manifestations that could generally be equated with
Fear.
with fear. Right?
Yes. Well, fear is the most prolific source of diseases.
That's what I wondered if you would
Yes,
say.
well, it is. I think we ended last week on this point, how important it is to learn to be in the world in a fearless way. And what did we say is the secret of fearlessness?
Yeah.
Perfect lovingness. Right. Recently I saw a young lady who was brought to consultation from a mental hospital in New York City, where she was diagnosed as schizophrenic and suicidal and she refused to accept shock therapy. So her parents took her out of the hospital. She's 25 years old, and she had all sorts of panicky symptoms and confusion and such things. But in working with her in an interview, it became clear that her problem is a very simple one. All her life, she was admired for her beauty, for her intelligence, and for her talent. She could paint, she could sing, she could dance, she could model, she was an accomplished actress, she was highly educated. Everything she tackled in life was successful. She had marvelous parents. From early childhood on, she was a raving beauty. And the disaster of her life was admiration. And she didn't know what hit her. She thought she was schizophrenic, a suicide. Now, through phenomenological discernment, it became clear that she doesn't know the difference between being loved and being admired. Now, with admiration, it is this way. The more admiration we get, the sicker we become. Would you believe that? Somebody is nodding there. Could you explain it?
On my own feeling. Every young person.
Yes. What does admiration do to us?
Makes us want more admiration.
That's right. It feeds our vanity, which is a bottomless pit. You can never have enough admiration. The more you get, the more you want. Therefore, admiration in itself is pathogenic. In spite of the fact that it feels very good to be admired. Contrary to this, to admiration, is love. What is the difference between love and admiration? Love is health promoting. Healing. How is that possible? Can anyone explain the healing power of love? What's the mystery about love that it can heal? Well, we already know the mystery about admiration, that it makes us sick, right? It makes us feel good and it makes us sick. Now, what about love?
There's something about admiration that limits a person because it's saying they're so good at this or that or the other. It's a very concrete kind of thing, whereas love somehow takes the quality of open. And I can't quite say more than that, but there's a different feeling about love. It's not as specific. Not as centered on the other person.
What does love do?
Or you're
Accepts the other.
Need for self-confirmed realization.
It removes the need for self-confirmatory ideation. Well, that's in a way true, but it's going about it in a roundabout way.
Provides acceptance.
Provides acceptance. It is also true. Yes? Oh, no?
Allows the person freedom.
Allows the person freedom. Well, the healthy love does that, that's true.
Love is giving, where admiration is taking.
Not necessarily. When we admire somebody, we are giving arsenic.
Love confirms being.
Right. Love is an appreciation of the essential qualities of an individual. Therefore, it gives them validity and reinforces the awareness of the good of God in an individual. Therefore, love is health promoting. It provides us with a genuine sense of self-worth, which is crucial in mental health. Yes?
I'm confused again. As far as self-worth, feeling of self-worth, and self-confirmatory ideation. Could you
Yes.
please clarify that?
Right. Self-confirmatory ideation is a struggle to develop a sense of reality of selfhood. Where if self-worth is the ability to be aware of one's true spiritual qualities. There is also false self-worth. For instance, somebody can say, I am better than anybody else because I am Protestant, or white, or male, or female, or black. But it is possible to develop a sense of self-worth on a false basis and an existentially invalid basis. But genuine love affirms our true qualities and therefore gives us a healthy sense of self-esteem and self-worth. And that is very important. Now, I brought this example to you to show you how metapsychiatry proceeds in discerning the problem, the meaning of the problem, rather than the problem. You see, in the mental hospital where this young lady was hospitalized for a few days, they only saw the problem. The problem looked like schizophrenia, mental confusion, dissociative tendencies, panic, and suicidal ideation. There is a difference between seeing the problem and seeing the meaning of the problem. The standard psychiatric diagnostic system is based on seeing the problem and classifying it. The metapsychiatric system is based on seeing the meaning of the problem and helping the patient recognize the meaning of the problem. Yes.
She was
Right.
able to see
Certainly,
that.
right. Surely it was highly, very helpful to her, because she could immediately see that she believed all her life that the most important thing is to be admired. He was very clear to her, but he wasn't clear to her that to be admired is not synonymous with being loved. And that's what she needed to understand in order to be healed. It was a very simple matter. If we see the meaning of the problem, we have the first part of metapsychology called recognition. Now, I would like you to understand that in the standard statistical and diagnostic manual of the American Psychiatric Association, which you are probably learning, which it has to be learned, it is all based on seeing the problem and classifying it. In metapsychiatry, we learn to see the meaning of the problem, and thereby we have the possibility of helpfulness. If we just see the problem, it can be startling and frightening. A problem can appear to be very serious and rather difficult to deal with. But once we see the meaning of the problem, it can be surprisingly simple. Just like with this case.
Did all those symptoms disappear?
Of course. Of course,
knew-
they were produced by fear. You see?
Oh.
Once an admirable young lady fails to get admiration, she goes to pieces and starts having all sorts of experiences. And so it is with everything else. We have to learn to discern the meaning of the problem and not be blinded by the problem itself.
So that was what you see as, from what she said, is what happened. Admiration disappeared because of certain circumstances in her life. There was a disappearance of admiration, at which point there were the fear symptoms.
You are looking for the cause of
No,
this.
I'm looking for an elaboration of the case. because
How
you
it
just,
came about.
well, you just stated that there was fear, I think you said, caused by the disappearance of admiration,
Yeah.
right? And I wanted to know, is that what precipitated the fear? Is this what came out in the interview, that there was a correspondence between the fear and the lack of admiration?
Yes, but that's not important in this case, because you are looking for an explanation of the cause. What's important is the ignorance. We always suffer from ignorance. You see, if you find a cause for a problem, then you're aggravating the problem. Because if a problem has a cause, then it is real.
Well, you can say, aren't you saying then that her symptoms were related to the confusion of admiration with
Love.
love.
Yes. They were a direct expression of this misguided notion that it is important to be admired.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to,
Yes.
in that interview, you, out of all the material presented, you culled out this problem of admiration.
I
And-
didn't call it out. It's revealed
It
itself.
was revealed, and with your intelligence, you.
I didn't
You
do
had to
that.
do
I
some
didn't do
culling.
nothing.
Because there must have been a whole lot of stuff there before you.
No, you just have to learn phenomenological perceptivity,
Right.
and the meaning of problems reveals itself to you in a very simple and meaningful way. And then you can clarify in the facial. Yes?
I have a question about children, unless there's one you wake up in the morning, the child is screaming with a red ear. And
With a red ear.
fever, you know, with
Yeah.
an infection in the ear.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, yeah.
It's hard for me to say that was the parent's fear. It's really, I can see this as people get older, but I guess with infants and children who pick up a lot of infection and illnesses and their fever goes way up.
Yeah.
It's harder for me to understand.
Yeah. Well, then the best thing is to call the pediatrician right away. You see, what happens when a mother calls the pediatrician?
She ceases to become fearful.
Right. It's very comforting and reassuring that there is somebody we can call. And the moment the mother becomes fearless, the child gets well before they reach the pediatrician. Under favorable circumstances.
Talking about ideals here. But aren't you indicating that it's a more pervasive kind of fear in the parent that would be communicated to the child so that the child lives in an environment of fear? It's not the parent becoming fearful that the child's going to have an earache and then the child has an earache.
Sure,
It's,
sure. The
Larger than that.
mental
It's-
climate in the home
yeah,
is very important.
right.
And the vast majority of parents don't even know what you're talking about when you mention a mental climate. But if you are a sophisticated parent and you understand something about existentialism, then you will be very careful and prayerful that you might be a focal point of harmony and love and order, peace, assurance, gratitude at all times.
Send the children back. Prepare oneself.
Now you know, those of you who are Bible scholars, you know that Paul has recommended ceaseless prayer. Now, what's the sense of praying ceaselessly? Is that just a form of exaggerated pietism, or does it have some mental hygiene validity?
Well, by that, you simply meant being in a position of awareness of your relation to eternal love and heaven.
That's right. It is a mental hygiene discipline. Ceaseless prayer is not just a religious exaggeration. It is a way of preserving our sanity and maintaining a wholesome mental atmosphere. around ourselves, so that we may be beneficial presence wherever we happen to live and be active. Now you could ask, but how can this be done? How can one go about planning meals and earning a living and raising children and do all the things one is required to do and still be engaged in ceaseless prayer? Is this possible?
I suspect the answer is yes.
Can you explain it?
No.
No? Can anyone?
I suspect the answer is yes.
Can you explain it?
No.
No? Can anyone?
Yeah, they don't exclude each other.
They don't exclude each other. Could you explain?
Well, one of these things that we're concerned with is activity, and analogy of prayer is the
Well, we didn't speak of an attitude of prayer,
Are you speaking about an inner dialogue?
an inner dialogue. That's lovely phrase, but could you explain that?
Well, that you can go on behaving and thinking of what you have to make for dinner, but on a deeper level, you're communicating.
Yeah, that's very nice. That is,
Is it possible?
if it's possible. Well, would you like me to explain to you the secret of ceaseless prayer?
Yes.
It is simply learning to see everything in the context of divine love intelligence. Having a transcendent perspective on every detail of daily life. Thou shalt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, for he trusteth in thee. This is crucial. Learning to have a transcendent viewpoint on reality. Yes.
Is this idea related to the process of phenomenological discernment?
So absolutely.
I've been sort of sitting here wanting to ask, how does one practice phenomenological discernment? But in the spirit of, if you know what, you know how.
Right.
Perhaps you could speak some more about
Yes.
the what.
Yes.
Phenomenological.
Can you remember our definition of phenomenological perceptivity?
No.
Can anyone? Without referring to notes?
Is there any between what is the what seems to be and what really is?
Not quite, no. Well, I'll just have to repeat myself again. Did you want to say something?
Well, I tried it this in the last time of Buddha. I'm trying to think. It's being perceptive to what seems to be.
No.
The way it.
phenomenological perceptivity is an open-minded confrontation with that which reveals itself from moment to moment. The open mind requires a wide mental horizon, which is uncluttered by preconceptions, prejudices, and calculative thinking. The transcendent perspective on reality provides us with this wide mental horizon, and therefore is intimately related to the ability, to the faculty of phenomenological perceptivity. So the two go together. The transcendent perspective and the open-minded receptivity to that which reveals itself from moment to moment. Now, when you have a patient like the one that you heard about today, such a patient will come into the office and start rambling incoherently and telling you about her symptoms. If you get fascinated by the symptoms and start trying to figure out what the cause of this condition might be, your mind gets polluted with fear and anxiousness and calculative reasoning, because you're trying to figure the patient out. If you try to figure out something, you're engaged in calculative thinking, which is a form of mental pollution, which clutters up the mind and makes it impossible for us to become phenomenologically perceptive. We lose the open mind. Therefore, it requires some training to learn to confront situations with an open mind in a non-calculative, non-defensive way, and wait patiently for the meaning of the phenomena to reveal itself to us. It is really a very effortless way of working, because everything is just revealing itself. We don't have to struggle, but we have to learn this. It takes a little courage not to try to figure things out, and to wait patiently till things reveal themselves. Yes?
I think the problem becomes worse when we're working with clients who have expectations of what we can do for them. Tell me, what does this mean?
Yeah,
Explain it.
right.
And,
But you know, the client is not really the problem. The anxious therapist is the problem, who thinks that he has to produce results and do something. Quick, do something. But if you understand that the therapist cannot heal, The patient cannot heal. The supervisor cannot heal. What is the healing factor? What is it and who is it or what is it that has the power to produce a healing? Love. Love. Truth. Truth has the power to heal. The therapist is a medium through whom truth can communicate itself to a patient's consciousness. And when truth reaches a patient's consciousness in a sufficiently meaningful way, then a healing occurs. And nobody can take credit for it. You can take money for it, but you cannot take credit for it. Is this clear?
You should know this guy who did us on credit anyhow.
You're absolutely right. There is nothing more pathetic than when a psychotherapist tries to take credit for a result, a favorable result, which happened. You can immediately see he doesn't know what in the world he's talking about. Nobody can take personal credit. Healing is always an occasion of grace manifest. So what's so great about being a psychotherapist if we cannot even brag about it? What satisfaction is there in working with people and helping them and benefiting them if we cannot take credit for it? Would anybody in his right mind want to be a psychotherapist this way? If you investigate the motivation which brings us into psychotherapy, if you are very sincere about it, you will find the vast majority of us go into it in a secret hope of having power over people. Because if anyone has power to help, then he has power over that individual. If I am my brother's keeper, then I'm superior to my brother. Right? A part of becoming a psychotherapist, an important element is getting disillusioned about our motives to become psychotherapists. And then finding the right kind of satisfaction in this work. What would be the existentially valid way of deriving satisfaction from psychotherapy?
It involved the beneficial presence.
What's so hot about that?
It would bring us into harmony.
What kind?
It's a fundamental order of the earth.
Right. Do you understand what you just said?
Yeah.
Yes?
Sandy.
What?
Sandy.
Well,
I think
the great joy and satisfaction is watching God do the work. Could you believe that? Yes?
That's
Wow.
such a wonderfully hopeful thing.
I'm glad. You see, when you see how truth heals people right in front of your eyes, you are seeing God in action.
Can do it.
Right. And that is the ultimate satisfaction in being a psychotherapist. Or when meanings reveal themselves to you, again, you have a direct awareness of a higher intelligence entering into your consciousness and providing you with the intelligence, with the understanding which is needed at that particular moment. Therefore, as you see, the real satisfaction is spiritual, rather than ego gratification. Most of the time, we seek ego gratification from our work and from our everyday activity. That is the common way of trying to be happy and find life worthwhile. It is through ego gratification. But you see, ego gratification is pathogenic. Just as this young lady who received so much admiration. What is admiration? Is just a form of ego gratification, isn't it? The more ego gratification we get, the more we want. As Jesus put it, it is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. So a metapsychiatric therapist doesn't seek ego gratification. He seeks the joy of beholding. What is the joy of beholding?
Seeing God at work.
Right. Did everybody hear this? Seeing God in action. So much for today.